My high school son just dropped a bombshell by sending me a photo of my husband walking into a hotel arm in arm with his secretary. His eyes were red with rage. Mom, Dad's cheating on you. Divorce him. Make sure he gets nothing. I'll protect you from now on. Because of his encouragement, I decided to sue my husband in a previous life after gathering proof. But on the day of the trial, my husband refused to admit anything. My mother-in-law even showed up with her own so-called evidence, yelling that I was the one who had actually cheated. In the middle of the argument, the judge asked my son who he wanted to live with. To my shock, he calmly said, since both of them cheated, they should both leave with nothing. He even revealed bruises and scars on his body, crying to the public online that he had been abused for years by both parents. I was utterly stunned by his accusations. Before I could figure out what was really going on, my husband was hunted down by furious netizens who broke his legs and pushed him off a cliff. As for me, I was knocked unconscious, stuffed into a sack and drowned in a river. Even our extended family wasn't spared. They were doxxed and harassed online until they fell into depression and eventually died. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the very day my son had discovered my husband's affair. My phone suddenly vibrated, pulling me out of the suffocating sensation of drowning. A message came in from my son, Adrian. The photo showed my husband of 20 years, Edgar Langston, holding his secretary's waist as they exited a luxury hotel, followed by a furious voice message. Mom, Dad's cheating on you. He even checked into a room with his young secretary. A scumbag like that doesn't deserve to be my father. Divorce him. Make sure he gets nothing. Don't worry, I'll protect you from now on. Hearing those familiar words, I finally realized that I had truly been reborn. In my previous life, after receiving this message, I, who had believed my family was happy and perfect, immediately panicked. I wanted to confront Edgar face to face, but my son insisted we shouldn't tip him off. He told me to secretly gather evidence and take my husband to divorce court. He swore he'd be on my side and wouldn't let that scumbag get a single cent. I was deeply touched by his encouragement and support. Nonetheless, I had no idea this would turn into my worst nightmare. Just as I was ready to expose my cheating husband in court, he suddenly denied everything, refusing to admit his affair. My mother-in-law, who had always treated me like her own daughter, suddenly turned on me, screaming and even showing supposed evidence that I was the one cheating. Even my own mother slapped me in front of everyone, scolding me for being shameless and disgraceful. Amid the chaos, the judge asked my son who he wanted to live with. To my shock, the same son who had vowed to stand up for me suddenly turned on me. Since both of them cheated, they should both leave with nothing. He even exposed his bruises and scars in public, tearfully accusing us of long-term domestic abuse. The old wounds were shocking and immediately caused a storm of public outrage. The online attacks came like a tidal wave, catching me completely off guard. Before I could even figure out the truth, Edgar was beaten by self-proclaimed internet vigilantes and thrown off a cliff. And I, 3 months pregnant at the time, was beaten unconscious, stuffed into a sack and drowned in a river by angry netizens. Only in my final moments did I finally understand why my son had done this. Remembering it now, I clenched my fists so hard my phone nearly cracked. Since I hadn't answered, Adrian sent me another message. Don't be scared, Mom. I'm here. That jerk won't get away with anything. Reading those words, the last trace of warmth in my eyes faded. I replied expressionlessly with 2 words. Not divorcing. Right after I sent the message, my phone suddenly rang. As soon as I answered, Adrian's urgent voice burst through the receiver. Mom, what do you mean by this? How can you not get a divorce from a bastard like that? Are you planning to keep him around for the holidays or something? His voice grew more agitated as he ranted. Don't be afraid of going to court. One of my classmates' dads is a lawyer. Before he could finish, I took a deep breath and cut him off coldly. I'm not getting a divorce. End of discussion. With that, I hung up with a sharp click. In my previous life, it wasn't until angry netizens beat me unconscious and stuffed me into a sack that I realized I was pregnant. I begged desperately, trying to buy a sliver of hope for the child in my womb, but all I got in return were insults and curses. After being reborn, I immediately went to the city's most private obstetrics and gynecology doctor for a prenatal checkup. Thank God, the baby in my womb was perfectly healthy. As someone who struggles to conceive, I found this to be a delightful surprise. In this life, I was determined to protect my baby with all my might. With that thought, I hired a high-priced private investigator to dig up some answers. In my past life, the thing that dragged me into the abyss was the so-called evidence my mother-in-law presented in court to prove I cheated. Not only were there intimate photos of me with a strange man in a hotel, but there were also records of room bookings. Yet, I had never done any of those things. I had to find out how that evidence came about. Unexpectedly, before I could even obtain the results of my investigation, I received a divorce summons from the court. The moment I entered the courtroom, my mother-in-law, Patricia Hardwick, jumped to her feet. She pointed at me with a trembling finger and cried out in rage. Evelyn Marin, you shameless woman. What has my son ever done to deserve this? He gave you food, clothes, a big house and a life of luxury. And how did you repay him? By sneaking around with another man behind his back. You've disgraced the Langstons. A filthy, immoral tramp like you deserves to be struck by lightning. She beat her chest, howling, and even tried to lunge at me before the bailiffs held her back. Yet after being forced back into her seat, she kept wailing. Your Honor, you must deliver justice. A woman like her shouldn't get a single cent. Kick her out with nothing. My son is an outstanding man. Even after divorce, he'll find someone better. That bitch deserves to leave empty-handed. Just then, another figure stood up. It was my mother, Victoria Hargrave. Her face was pale, her eyes filled with disappointment and shame as she looked at me. Eve, how could you do such a thing? Edgar treated you so well. Why weren't you satisfied? Why did you have to go cheat? Once you're divorced, don't you dare come home. Our family can't bear this shame. She even raised her hand, trying to slap me, just like she did in my past life. The disgust in her eyes made my heart ache. If others didn't believe me, fine. But she was my mother, the one who should have known me best. I didn't understand why she refused to believe in me, too. She never even asked for my side of the story before standing against me. However, I no longer had the energy to dwell on these things. I looked at everyone expressionlessly and said coldly, I didn't cheat, so I won't accept leaving the marriage empty-handed. All that so-called evidence is fake. Someone is framing me. The judge looked at me seriously. Defendant, you deny the evidence submitted by the other party. Do you have any evidence to support your claim? I choked up. The private investigator hadn't gotten back to me with the results yet, so I really didn't have any evidence at the moment. To my surprise, everyone took my silence as a sign of guilt. The courtroom instantly erupted. Oh my god, she looks so quiet, but I can't believe how shameless she is. Exactly. Her husband treats her so well, and she still cheats. Disgusting. And she still won't admit it. She won't stop until she hits rock bottom. No wonder her husband is suing her and wants her kicked out with nothing. Serves her right. Women like her deserve to be drowned. Someone even threw a drink at me, drenching me from head to toe. I was on the verge of tears when a familiar voice suddenly rang out from the courtroom entrance. I have evidence. Adrian, still in his school uniform, strode in with urgency etched across his face, with a backpack slung over his shoulder and a brown envelope tightly clutched in his hand. He glanced at his sobbing grandmother and stone-faced maternal grandmother in the audience. Finally, his eyes locked on mine and he declared loudly, I'm Adrian Langston, the son of the plaintiff Edgar Langston and the defendant Evelyn Langston. I want to sue my father, Edgar Langston, for betraying our family by cheating with his secretary. If they divorce, he should be the one to leave with nothing. I sighed, realizing that what was bound to happen had finally happened. Anyone who didn't know better would think he was here to stand up for me. Only I knew what his true intentions were. The courtroom fell silent for a brief moment before erupting into chaos again. Holy crap, the son suing his own dad. Talk about justice over blood ties. Damn, what a twist. Is he trying to clear his mom's name? That kind of courage deserves applause. I knew it. There's more to this story. Look, the defendant's face just turned green. Sure enough, Edgar's expression darkened instantly. The smug look vanished as he shot up from the plaintiff's seat, trembling with rage. Adrian, what the hell are you spouting? Get the hell out of here. Adrian was fearless. He quickly pulled several photos from the file bag, the same ones he had sent me earlier. I'm not talking nonsense. I have evidence. My father, Edgar Langston, has been carrying on an inappropriate relationship with his secretary for years while still married. This is evidence of his betrayal of my mother. Then, he turned to me, his gaze unwavering. Mom, don't be afraid. This kind of scum isn't worth holding on to. I support you getting a divorce. Let dad leave with nothing. He doesn't deserve a single cent of this family. The moment the photos were revealed, the courtroom exploded and all eyes turned to Edgar, whose face had turned ashen. What a good son, standing up for his mom like that, even against his own father. Now that's a real mama's boy. Damn right, a father like that isn't worth keeping. I'm with the son. Exactly, cheaters should get nothing in the divorce. Edgar was shaking with fury, jabbing a finger at Adrian and me as he spewed curses. Bullshit, you two must have plotted this together to frame me. Evelyn, you bitch, did you put him up to this to ruin me? I'll kill you both, you viperous snakes. His eyes bloodshot, he suddenly lunged around the table, charging toward the defendant's stand with his arm raised, ready to strike me across the face. The bailiff reacted swiftly, rushing to block him. In the chaos, someone shoved me hard and my handbag flew out of my grip. The prenatal test tucked inside slipped out, landing right in front of everyone. My stomach dropped. I scrambled to grab it, but it was too late. The entire courtroom went completely wild. She's actually pregnant. No wonder she refuses to divorce. Turns out this is the reason. The son only said the dad cheated, but didn't say the mom didn't. That baby in her belly must be some bastards. Why else would she be hiding it? Exactly. She's trying to take a share of the family assets with some bastard child. Dream on. It looks like neither parent is good. That poor kid. In the gallery, my mother-in-law completely lost it. She pointed at me, screaming hysterically. Evelyn, you filthy whore. You're carrying a bastard and still won't leave with nothing. I knew it. You're using that bastard to blackmail the Langstons for our money. I'm telling you now, dream on. Not a chance. All the blood had vanished from my mother's face. She clutched her chest and swayed slightly. The look she gave me was full of nothing but despair and disgust. Adrian glanced at the pregnancy report, a flicker of shock flashing across his eyes. But the next second, he eagerly stood on my side. Mom, now I understand why you didn't want a divorce. You were worried about the baby, right? That no one would take care of it after the divorce. A child is innocent. No matter who the father is, it's still a life. Don't worry. After you divorce dad, I'll help raise the baby brother. I let out a cold laugh and looked away from him. But the people in the gallery were immediately touched by Adrian's noble act. What a good kid. His mom cheated and he's still willing to take care of her child. So kind. Yeah, honestly, both parents should leave with nothing. Give everything to the son. Hearing the crowd, a smug expression flashed across Adrian's face. At that moment, Edgar snapped out of it when he heard the words leave with nothing. He pointed at my belly and exploded with rage. Utter nonsense. Evelyn, don't you dare think you can use that bastard to get a share of my money. Your Honor, I demand a prenatal paternity test on Evelyn's baby. If it's mine, I'll take responsibility. But if it's a bastard, she must abort it immediately and walk away with nothing. Not a single cent. We are going to the hospital right right now. He rushed over, pulling at me like a madman, convinced the child wasn't his. Patricia shrieked in support. That's right. If she won't leave clean, then abort that bastard. No way we are letting it stain the Langstons' name. Between my mother-in-law's curses, my husband's roars, my own mother's disgust and the tidal wave of scorn from the spectators, I felt like I was drowning. A sharp pain shot through me, my vision darkened and I nearly collapsed. But I ignored them all, fixing my gaze on Adrian instead. Adrian, are you sure you want to do this? The boy blinked innocently. Mom, I don't understand what you're talking about. College entrance exams are coming up. You and Dad both cheated. Of course, it's going to affect my results. But don't worry, I won't blame you. As long as you're happy, I'm fine with anything. Just then, the judge banged the gavel hard and asked the same crucial question he had asked in my previous life. If the divorce went through, who did Adrian want to live with? The boy could barely contain the excitement in his eyes as his lip parted to answer. At that moment, my phone buzzed violently. It was a message from the private investigator. He must have finally uncovered the mastermind behind all this. I had imagined countless possibilities, but when I opened the message, I froze. I never expected it to be him, and the reason he did all this left me completely speechless. Still, I wouldn't be soft-hearted again this time. Before Adrian could say a word, I raised my phone and shouted, I'll divorce Edgar Langston, and I'll walk away with nothing. But before that, there's something I need everyone to see. Edgar hadn't expected me to suddenly change my stance, and was stunned on the spot. Adrian, seeing me give in, couldn't hide the joy on his face. I glanced at the eager crowd waiting for gossip, cleared my throat, then loudly announced the secret I had just learned from my phone. The moment I spoke the first sentence, Adrian's face twisted in panic. He lunged at me, clamping a hand over my mouth.